Ever since I was a kid, I fell in love with this shit. I've been grinding for some years just to get in this bitch. Watch out for the industry, deliver them hits. Then be in LA trying to find a girl that drink hadn't hit. Damn, I ain't mean to spill the tea. I took a journey on the toll road. I had to pay the fee. Your mother fed.
Well, let's get right into it, man. It is now public knowledge. I've seen 100,000 videos on this platform about it. I'm sure you have too. This is yet another one of those. And the subject of that just so happens to be that Terrence Crawford is now suing Bob Arum and Top Rank, which is music to my ears. It's about time someone has tried to, I don't know, have some sort of legal recourse on Bob. I think it's necessary. It's been necessary for quite some time, and Terrence Crawford is just that guy to do it. Now, this lawsuit is definitely about revolting racial bias, and we're gonna see the usual things. The usual things we see when a Black person accuses someone of racism. We're gonna see Black people, young and old, in a lot of situations, come out and talk about how that's not the case. It happens in every aspect of life, entertainment, whatever it is, whatever's going on, you see it. You look at the situation with Gabrielle Union and the things that she was going through with the network that she worked for. And then you have someone like Terry Crews to say, hey, that's not the case. Whereas for Terrence Crawford's situation, you have people like former boxers, Timothy Bradley, saying that's not the case. That hasn't been the case with him. He hasn't seen any of these alleged things that are going on with Terrence Crawford. Same thing with George Foreman, who had one of them old Black dude responses like, Bob has a good heart and that's not in him. He's a people person. He's a real man of the people situation. Of course, he's going to do that because he's getting a lot of money with Bob. And let me say this about Timothy Bradley. He definitely works for ESPN via Top Rank. So that makes sense for him. And last but not least, another loud voice in favor of Bob Arum was Rashida Ali, which is one of the daughters of Muhammad Ali, mother to Nico Ali Walsh, which is one of boxing's new guys, and definitely the grandson of Muhammad Ali. Now, all of these people have come out in Bob's defense, and these are sort of the things you expect to see. Now, we live in a new world, so to speak. For the most part, we live in a new world, but that's only for certain groups of people. For example, rarely, like let's put it this way. Let's say there was a female boxer that alleged some sort of sexual misconduct coming from Top Rank. I guarantee you, it wouldn't be a whole bunch of women saying it wasn't the case with them. Now, Bob Arum is Jewish, so let's just say someone Jewish, came across something anti-Semitic in Top Rank, and the tables were turned. It wouldn't be other Jews, the Jewish people coming out saying, you know what? That guy's okay with me. That's nothing. That wasn't the case when I was there. You don't get that from other walks of life for real. You get that when you're dealing with Black and racist stuff. And a lot of that is because that's just how it was set up. And quite frankly, it's more lucrative to disregard something that someone Black says, especially when it's something as sensitive a subject as racism. I'm happy for Terrence Crawford for doing this. I've already respected the man. I've always thought the man was built differently. Never judged the man for anything that he's done inside the ring. A lot of people were upset with him that he re-signed or seemingly re-signed with Top Rank a year or two ago when he didn't have to. They kept saying that that was dumb, this, that, and the other. Well, the man made a business decision. And who's to say he didn't have this in the tuck the whole time? Who's to say that Terrence Crawford didn't have this plan the entire time? Maybe he signed with Bob Arum knowing that Bob Arum wasn't really going to do what he was supposed to do. Maybe he knew Bob Arum wasn't really going to honor that contract in the right way. We knew he wasn't going to honor that contract in the right way. So it would be dumb for us to not think that Terrence Crawford isn't one step ahead of us because he is actually dealing with the situation on a one-to-one person level. Like, he is Terrence Crawford. He is signed to Top Rank. So it's no speculation with him. Like, he's doing this shit. So if it didn't make sense to us, probably didn't make sense to him on the front end, but the back end could be so much more lucrative. We just had the celebration the other day on TV where it was Bob Arum's 90th birthday, and they celebrated the man like I've never seen him celebrated before. He's on his way out, and this is going to be one of those last punches on his way out. Terrence Crawford may not win his case. I believe he has as evidence to win his case. I believe the internet has the evidence to win his case. As a matter of fact, there have been many times in many interviews that Bob Arum has had Freudian slips. Like, for instance, part of this lawsuit is the fact that Bob Arum just isn't promoting the guy for real. You have literal interviews of him saying that he's costing them money. He's lost enough money on Terrence Crawford. This is a famous line. We all say this. He's lost enough money on Terrence Crawford that he could have built a home, a mansion in Beverly Hills. This man talking about the Errol Spence, the potential for the Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight, saying that Errol Spence may never fight again because of his car accident, which makes sense if it's an isolated thing, but it's not an isolated thing because at the same time, in the back room, this man was negotiating a contract with Terrence Crawford that was promising him a fight with someone he was publicly saying was never going to fight again. You can't make this shit up. But I am happy that things like this are now coming to light. I'm happy. I don't want to continue to have or listen to these dumbass arguments about whether Terrence Crawford deserves 40%, 30%, or even 50% of an Errol Spence fight. I just want to see the dudes fight. I don't care who gets the money. All I'm here for is to see the fight. You let me know when the fight is going to happen, and I'll be there to pay for it. I'll be there to do my part. But do I care who gets the lion's share of that? Nah, because at the end of the day, it might be one of those situations that turns into a rematch. And the winner of the first fight definitely is going to command that bag for the second fight. And if it's a draw, then hey, you can go back to the table 50-50. Cool. I don't care. I believe in my mind as a boxing fan and someone who tries to read people a little bit, I believe it would mean more for Terrence Crawford to beat Errol Spence than it would for him to actually be undisputed at 147. I believe that's important. I believe it's important to say that, yes, there have been opportunities that maybe Errol Spence could have fought Terrence Crawford. He could have walked to the other side of the street because, you know, at the end of the day, how I look at it if you're over here on the PBC side and you're pretty much, you know, your own promoter or whatnot, like, you can go across the street and try to make that fight. But yeah, you need a willing participant as far as management is concerned, but you can do it. And I haven't seen that done. And the reason why I haven't seen that done is not lost on me. The reason why I haven't seen it done is because Errol Spence made a decision to clean up his side of the street first. In my opinion, they have both taken the easiest routes to get to where they're going to fight each other. It was easy for Terrence Crawford to pick up the belt that he picked up in order to being a running to fight Errol Spence. It's easier for Errol Spence to fight all these other guys before fighting Terrence Crawford. If we believe these guys are 1 and 2 pound for pound and 1 and 2 in welterweight, then them not fighting each other, no matter how hard or how tough the person that they're fighting is, other than themselves, other than each other, they're not fighting each other. So they're not fighting the toughest guy. They're making for the best fights that they can, I guess. Well, Errol Spence is. Terrence Crawford's a little tied, and part of the reason why why his hands are a little tied is because of revolting racial bias. Go figure. Go figure. One of the reasons we really haven't seen this fight is because Bob Arum hasn't wanted it. Think about this for a second. Why would Bob Arum, as much money as he likes to keep for himself, why would he literally give this man a fight with Errol Spence Jr. on his last fight of a contract? You gonna ride off in the sunset with my money? Bob Arum ain't let nobody ride off in the sunset with his money, man. Damn that shit. It'd be crazy as hell to see that. Nah. What Bob did is what Bob does. Bob is no different than a record label. He's no different than 300 ENT. What's 300 ENT? That's that record label that all them, all them Chicago dudes are part of, if I'm not mistaken. Like those 360 deals are a motherfucker, man. You're not really making money. Not for real. Bob Arum's no different than those guys right there. You don't really have the talent, but you have the connections. So you play a higher role. Man, I wouldn't even, a super middleman. It's basically a super middleman. And middlemen don't matter, and they definitely put out that they have more control and more power than they do. But if you put that illusion out enough and you actually have people out there respecting it, like you have that kind of sauce, then you definitely gonna take advantage of that shit. So that's what Bob Arum is, man. Bob Arum. We talked about his no black fighter rules before, his columns of fighters. You know, I just don't see this turning out well for Bob. It's going to court. Terrence Crawford is willing to put the money up. It's at least going to be settled. I hope it's not settled. I hope there are some depositions and all that good shit. I hope there's some discovery. I hope there are things that people have to put down via oath or under oath that are going to be more revealing. We're going to understand why. Well, hopefully we'll get to understand through the questions that would come up. Why is Terrence Crawford where he is, and why is Vasily Lomachenko where he is? Why is Teofimo where he is? You have to answer these questions, Bob, because now legally, the ball's in your court. Once again, man, shout out to Terrence Crawford for taking a stand and doing the right thing, doing a thing that a lot of people didn't even think about. But it's not uncommon for boxers to sue promoters. Look what Canelo just did a couple years ago, and that was basically a move to get rid of Golden Boy. It happens. Hell, if I'm not mistaken, Oscar De La Hoya sued Bob Arum. So it's a very common thing. What's uncommon is what making people uncomfortable is that we're talking about the R word, we're talking about racism. If it ain't racism, what is it? What is it, Bob Arum, that would make you not sell who you say is one of the best fighters of all time? And you can't give me this whole black fighters don't sell shit, because they do. Look at all the black fighters that do good numbers. I don't think the issue is that black fighters don't sell. I believe the real issue is that black fighters are not for sale by you. You do not sell black fighters. You have Shakur Stevenson and Terrence Crawford on your roster at the same damn time. And both of them are chasing fights that you have yet to produce. They have been for over 2 years, and you are a respected promoter and have been since the 1970s and 80s. Fuck out of here, Bob Arum. Shout out to Terrence Crawford. Shout out to all the other boxers, man. Let's make these fights. Let's make 2022 the best year it can be in boxing. I'm not saying the best year ever. I'm saying the best year it can be because it's boxing, guys. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Bullshit is bound to happen. And until next time, guys, I'm out. Peace.
You want it to be one way.
Man, I don't
You want
know
it
what
to
you...
be one
Man,
way.
stop.
It's the other way.